this call. And you were definitely our favorite speaker at our Family First Life convention early in February. But so excited. Author, motivational speaker, coach, guys, everything. Give it up for Dave Anderson. Dave, we're pumped. The floor is yours, buddy.
Hey, thank you. It's good to be with you all. I had a great time at that conference, by the way. That was time just flew and there was so much energy. And I think this is a great time to tune up a little bit. I want to just talk about a handful of points. We'll just call it a tune-up for championship performance. Go over 4 or 5 key areas in the 30 minutes that I have set aside for this now. And a lot of these things you're probably already doing. But you know what? You look for ways to do them better, or look for ways to do them more often. And if you're not doing some of these things, even if you're doing really well, these things will help you do better. So it's not about, well, I'm doing really well and I'm not doing this stuff, but how well could you be doing if you were doing the things I'm talking about? And we're going to start with the first point. You got to develop a championship mindset. I mean, mindset is a key. I can't talk enough about it. I've written 15 books. My last 2 books have been on mindset. I work with, some of you know, professional athletes on the mindset part of their game. And this is where it has to start, because it doesn't matter how skilled you are, how hard you work. It doesn't really matter how talented, how vast your knowledge. If your mindset isn't right, you're going to make excuses. You're going to be inconsistent. You're going to focus on things you can't control instead of focusing on the things you can control. If you don't have that personal clarity, I mean, to me, that's what really focuses your mindset. You got to get really, really clear about what type of person you're trying to become and what you're trying to get and what type of impact you're trying to have. You can't have effective daily routines without a high degree of personal clarity. And when I talk about personal clarity, I'm talking about your why. You all have heard me talk about the why before. The why, I talk about it in my last 2 books. The why is what's inside of you that motivates you. Okay? It's what makes you hungry. It's what gets your mindset focused on the things that matter most and away from the garbage that's going to make it harder to get there. Okay. And so your why answers 2 questions. Why do you get up in the morning? And why should anybody else even care that you get up in the morning? In other words, what do you want for yourself, and who is counting on you to come through? What type of person are you trying to become? Where do you want to live? How much do you want to make? What do you want to drive? What do you want to wear? Where do you want to travel? How do you want to travel there? And then who do you want to help? What legacy do you want to leave? What type of business do you want to build? Maybe you have a family member that needs your help. You have kids you got to put through a college. Maybe you have a social cause that really means something to you, and you want to help see that cause through. You see, you lose your way when you lose your why. And if your why isn't clear, if it's not compelling, if your why doesn't make you do stuff every day you wouldn't do without it, then it's not big enough. It's not clear enough. You see, when your why is really strong, you don't have to worry about consistency. Because you can't not do certain things because there's stuff you want so bad, you just have to do it. Even if you don't feel like doing it, you're going to do it anyway. See, that's the wonderful thing about having a really strong why. It fuels consistency. People think your consistency is a matter of a strong will. No, the will wane. Consistency is a matter of a strong why. Man, there's stuff you want so bad, you got to do this stuff. And you got to do it again and again, and you got to do it with excellence. You got to do it on the days you don't feel well. You got to do it on the days, just like that athlete, on the day they don't have their best stuff, they still got to go out and perform. They got to give 100% of what they have to what they do got, right? They got to give 100% of what they got going for them to what they do have. You're going to have days you only have 60% of your effectiveness. That's not a license to wait for a better day. You got to still perform. You got to give 100% to that 60%. See, and when that why is strong enough, your mind thinks that way. It's like, I can't just get through today. I got to get from today. And so what is your why? I mean, I review it every morning as part of my mindset routine. You guys, some of you have heard me say before, you cannot leave your mindset up for grabs. It's going to get hijacked by all the negativity and all the garbage and all the media and the social media and all this stuff you can't control in your life. You have to intentionally build your mindset. Intentional means on purpose. That's why my last book is called Intentional Mindset. You have to intentionally do certain things every day to get it right. One of the things I do in the morning is I review my why. I mean, I get my mindset routine going for me, folks, before I leave the house. I don't wait until I'm at the office. I need to be ready to go when I walk out the door. I'm already ready to go. I'm already in the zone. So whatever you do in the morning, could you set aside 10 minutes, 15 minutes to review your why, to review your priorities for the day? You know, to listen to something inspirational, motivational, educational, to turn off the news. The news isn't going to help you get rich. The news isn't going to help you help people. The news is going to make it harder to get there because you're going to get distracted by all that stuff, and it's going to stop you from doing the things you need to do that day. Sometimes building the right mindset is as much what you stay away from as what you engage in. Sometimes you got to stay away from the wrong people. People that try to talk you out of stuff, people that say, oh man, you're working so hard, you're not as fun as you used to be. And it's like you're just outgrowing them, and they don't want to put in that work, so they're just going to try to hold you back, you see. So you got to get your mindset right by getting your why right. That why keeps you hungry. And when you're hungry, you don't need pep talks. You don't need every day, you don't need to be rescued. You don't need someone to come and hug you and burp you and nurse you and bribe you and beg you to get the job done. You're just going to do it because there's stuff you want so bad, you can't not do it. So what is that stuff in your life? Somebody asked me one time, what should my why be? I said, I don't have any clue, man, what your why should be. I got to figure out what mine is. There's not a right why and a wrong why. There's your why, there's my why. It's going to change over the course of your life. I mean, as you start doing better, you're going to scratch some of those goals off the list. You're going to have that car. You're going to have that money. You're going to have that house. And if you're not careful, that why is getting smaller, which means your hunger is slowing down a little bit. So you got to keep that why relevant. You got to keep it burning within you. You should not need anybody to come along and motivate you to get you going. You should already be going. Any motivation you get from the outside, brother, that should just get you going faster. You should not need that to get out of the gates. Had a guy tell me the other day, my manager just doesn't motivate me. I'm like, why should he have to, man? Why aren't you already motivated? Why don't you have something going on within you that you want so bad, you can't not be motivated? So you got to work on your mindset. 10, 15 minutes, reviewing that why. I review mine every morning. Some of you may have affirmations. Some of you may subscribe to devotionals. Whatever you do is up to you, but you must do something intentionally to get your thinking cleaned up and focused on what matters most every day. You cannot leave it up for grabs. It's going to get hijacked by all the nonsense you see around you. So work on the mindset. You want a great body, you got to work on that body. You don't do 10 push-ups and just say, well, I'm fit for life, do you? Just like you don't read a motivational quote every once in a while and say, well, I'm taking care of my mindset. It's got to be a daily discipline. People ask, how often should I do a mindset routine? I said, how often do you want to be more energized? How often do you want to be more motivated? How often do you want to be more productive, more effective? However often that is, that's how often you work on your mind. If you want that once a week, do it once a week. If you want it every day, do it every single day. Make it part of your discipline. Some of you that are already doing well without intentionally working on your mindset, this will take an entirely different level. And as you're driving to your accounts, as you're driving to leads, as you're driving to customers, don't listen to the news. Keep your mindset strong. Listen to podcasts. Listen to something inspirational, energizing, motivational. That's going to keep you in that zone. That's going to keep you feeling good about yourself and feeling good about what you do. I have a certain routine I use on my commute time. I don't listen to the news. I mean, I'm like an athlete getting ready to get into the arena. When you get ready to get into the arena, you got to already be ready. You got to already be ready. You can't wait to get there to be ready. So protect your commute time, protect your drive time with your right mindset food that you're putting in there. So get really clear about what you want. And then decision making is so easy. I know what to say yes to. I know what to say no to. You know, some of you can't make decisions on very much because you're not clear enough about what you want. But I love the decision-making ability that comes with clarity. No, don't have time to watch 3 hours of Netflix tonight because there's goals I want so bad. I got to get on the phone and make some calls, or I got to watch this online course, or I got to listen to this podcast. You see, when you get real strong with personal clarity, you know what to do, what not to do. And it just puts you in a zone and puts you in a rhythm. And if you get off track, which we do, you got a track to get back to. I got to get back on the track that's going to take me to that why. So get that championship mindset. I guarantee you, every professional athlete I work with, there's stuff they want so bad. They go to practice on those days they don't want to practice. They go lift on those days they don't want to lift. They eat healthy on those days they want cheesecake. But there's stuff they want so bad, they can't allow themselves the luxury of doing that stuff that's going to make it harder to get that stuff. You got to have that same type of championship mindset. What is your why? Review it every morning. Second thing is you got to have a championship work ethic. Now, I think the first point is going to help the second point, because a championship work ethic is not just doing a lot of stuff. A championship work ethic is not just putting in a lot of hours. It's doing the right stuff and putting the right things in those hours. You see, there are a lot of people, man, they live their days a mile wide and an inch deep. I mean, they are spread too thin. They put second things first, major and minor things. They confuse activity with accomplishment. They create the swirl of activity during the day with all this motion, but they don't have progress. Motion does not mean progress. Rocking horse has a lot of motion. It's not going anywhere. We got to have progress. And so it's not just about putting in a lot of hours or putting in a lot of work or doing a lot of stuff. Doing the right stuff, doing enough of the right stuff, doing it with excellence, doing it consistently. If you want to improve your work ethic, I'm going to suggest something to you. Focus more on working smart. Okay, and what are the activities that are going to bring you the highest return today? And guess what? It might be the hard stuff. It might be the stuff you don't want to do. It might be the stuff that you don't feel good enough at yet. Well, that's no reason not to do it. You got to get better at it. I call them MAX-ACTS, maximum activity, MAXACTS, MAX-ACTS, a maximum activity. It narrows your focus. Out of the 40 things you may have to do today, what are the 4? What are the 4? Narrow it down to 4 now. What are the 4 that if you could only do 4 out of those 40, you may have to do 40. I don't care. I do too. But I understand this. If I could only do 4 today that were most predictive of bringing me the result I need, what would those 4 be? That's what I'm going to attack. That's what I'm going to get better at. That's what I'm going to hold myself accountable for. People say, well, I got 10 priorities. Well, you don't have 10 priorities because the idea of having 10 priorities destroys the whole concept of a priority. How can you have 10 of something that's a priority? Right? I'm corrupting the word priority by telling you to narrow it down to 4. When the word priority came in the English language, it meant the very first thing. But your MAX-ACT should be limited to 4 things. What are the biggest 4 things? What are your big 4? You know what that does? That narrows your focus. Now you know where to start. If you get off track, now you know what to get back to. Now you know where to spend more time. Now you know what to say no to. Yeah, you know, we just have to understand if everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. So if you could only do 4 things today that were most predictive of getting you the result you need, what would they be? Are they on your calendar? Are you going to be spending enough time doing them? Are you good enough at doing them? Because let me tell you something about MAX-ACTS. Those are the things you got to get great at. If those are the most essential activities, those are the things you really got to develop the skills. You really, if it's working the phone, you got to get better at the phone. Some people are making more calls, but they're not making quality calls. Well, if you're making more calls and they're not very good calls, you're going to get more rejection. So let's get better at them first. All right. I always call it the better, more often strategy. So let's get better. Then when we're better at it, then we'll do more of it. And then we'll do it more often. And so it's all about figuring out what are your MAX-ACTS and am I good enough at this stuff? Can I get better at it? How can I improve? I'm guessing you can improve. There's stuff I do every day. I've been doing for 30 years. I can still get better at it. I'm still working on it. And I have to get better at it because they're big deals in my business, just like your MAX-ACTS are big deals in your business. So you got to have, this is what I do in my morning mindset routine. I review my why, I review my MAX-ACTS for the day. This is part of my routine. I need to know what I'm going to attack. I don't get to the office and just wait for something to happen and just wait to get into a rhythm. I don't start a day in neutral, man, because I'm never getting that day back. You got to stop starting days in neutral. You got to have that plan. You got to attack. You got to be the boxer, not the bag. Some of you wake up, you're drifting through the day. You're just reacting to stuff that's going on. You're the bag. Life's no fun when you're the bag. You got to set the tone. You got to set the pace. You got to have the plan. Some of us, especially in sales, we're way too concerned with outcomes. How many sales do I need to make this month? Don't confuse the scoreboard for the game. Stay in the game. The MAX-ACTS are the game. You control the game, the scoreboard starts to take care of itself. Some of you talk way too much about outcomes. You obsess way too much about outcomes. And I understand that. It's how we're measured. It's how we're paid. But if the MAX-ACTS create the outcomes, and they do, the activities create the outcomes. That's what you need to be obsessed with. And again, not just any activity, but those highest impact activities. Stay in the game. Every time you start talking about the scoreboard, you've taken yourself out of the game. You see it happen in sports. That team's up by 21 points. They start looking at the scoreboard. Look how well we're doing. How much time do we have left? Can we protect this lead? And all the momentum changes. They got to stay in the game, and so do you. And if you're behind where you want to be, forget the scoreboard too. That's probably what's messing you up in the first place. You're not in the game enough. to change those figures. So stay in the game, but you got to stay in the right game. Work ethic is about doing more of the things that matter most. Even if you're not good at it, you got to get better at it. Even if you don't like it, you get better at it, you'll like it. You know how you know another way I learned to improve consistency? Get better at it. You're more likely to do the stuff you're good at. You will avoid the stuff you're not that good at. So by getting better at certain things, you're more willing to want to do it. You're getting a better return. You're seeing a better result. One of the secrets to consistency is the why, which I gave you. A second one is just get better at the stuff that matters most, and you're more likely to want to do it and less likely to avoid doing it or make excuses why you couldn't do it or say, I didn't have time or whatever other nonsense that's holding you back. So think about what are your max acts. See, I want you to have some takeaways from this. This isn't just entertainment. What is your why? Do you have a morning mindset routine? What are your max acts? By the way, if you don't have a why that's really clear, that's in writing, we got a free downloadable why workbook on our website that you can download and you can go through it. And it goes through 5 areas of your life. It walks you through it. And you get, maybe for the first time in your life, just resolutely clear about why you get up in the morning and why anybody else should even care. Our website is learntolead.com. Spell it out just like it sounds, learntolead.com. And there's a club there called the Insider Club. It's free. I make it free so people don't have any excuses not to do it. So you join the club and you'll see all kinds, there's videos, there's articles, there's all sorts of stuff that'll help you. But you're looking for that downloadable why workbook. And do it with your spouse, do it with your significant other. And both of you get on that same page and get really clear about why you do what you do. I don't think we burn out because we do a lot of what we do. I think we burn out because we forget why we do what we do. Okay. Because, oh, I just work long and hard, I burned out. No, you forgot why you're working long and hard. You lost sight of that driver. That's why you're burned out. When you keep focused on why you're doing it, that keeps that passion going. So there's an action step for you. Get the why workbook. Determine your why. Set aside some time to build that mindset routine every morning, then maintain it during the day. Determine your max acts. Out of the 40 things you may have to do today, what are the 4 that are most essential? Make sure you keep getting better at those things. Hold yourself accountable for doing those things. Review those things during your mindset routine. These are steps you can start like right away. Now, let me tell you what else you need. So we need a championship mindset. We need a championship work ethic. We also need championship habits. And I really believe if you do the first 2 things, you're going to develop more of the right habits. You really can't develop strong habits without that personal clarity. Because without clarity, you're all over the place. And you're never going to stick with anything long enough to develop a habit. But when you get really clear about what's most important to you, you give yourself fewer options. I don't have time for that anymore. I got to do more of this. And so a habit is a behavior you repeat often enough to where it becomes automatic. So you just start doing those max acts again and again and again to where you don't even have to think about it. You do it so often, it just becomes automatic. Well, I do think that once you've got a really clear goal where you're trying to go in life, it's a lot easier to figure out what things you're going to have to do more often to get there. And that's going to fuel those good habits. Now, here's why a lot of people don't stick with habits. They'll start a productive behavior, but it never becomes a productive habit, you see. The difference between a behavior and a habit is frequency. Frequency. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. It's like the guy that goes to the gym in January and he signs up, he gets on that automatic debit thing, and then 2 weeks later, it's April now, he hadn't been since the middle of January. See, he started a good behavior. He didn't get his rear end in there often enough to where it became automatic. Somebody starts a diet, lasts for like 6 meals, okay? They have discipline for like 6 meals, and then they get into instant gratification again, and they decide they're gonna break it. You gotta stick with the stuff long enough so it becomes automatic. Now, let me tell you something about habits. They have a compounding effect, okay? So you can't just start a new habit of asking for referrals or prospecting or doing a mindset routine and expect to see instant results overnight. That'd be too easy. It wouldn't even require it to become a habit to get results. You'd be getting a prize without paying the price. You have to understand when you start to develop the right habits, it takes time. You will get the results over time, not overnight. You got to take the long view. Got to take the long view. So here's what I mean by the compounding effect. You do it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You're not seeing a result. You don't care because that why, you want that why so bad, you're going to keep doing it. You're going to trust your training. You're going to trust the process. You're going to trust the numbers. You keep doing it. And pretty soon that compounding kicks in and you start to see it. You got to stick with the behavior long enough to turn into a habit and stick with the habit long enough to compound into results for you. Quit looking for the easy way. The longest distance between any 2 points is a shortcut, okay? So they don't work. It's not going to work for you. You got to understand, you got to stick with it long enough. Now, there's also some bad habits maybe you developed. See, habits can hurt, they can work against you. There's stuff you started doing, and now it's just automatic. You don't even have to think about it. There's an excuse you make. It's just automatic. It's been your go-to maybe for a long time. And you've used it at this job and at that job, and you used it in school, and you use it in your relationship, and it's just part of your vocabulary now. And it's just automatic, and it is holding you back. You got to recognize the compounding effect of those bad habits. Not planning your day. That's a bad habit. No structure. No max-act schedule. You're just going to wing it. Shoot from the hip. Operate out of instinct. Do the stuff you feel like doing. You do that long enough, you're going to be broken and embarrassed. I'm telling you, that has a compounding effect that's going to body slam your career and your future. The problem is, you can do that for a while and get away with it. You can start a bad habit and the result doesn't show up overnight. Just like you start a good habit and the result doesn't show up overnight. And you think it doesn't matter. But just like with the good habit, you do it often enough, it's going to compound, it's going to catch you. The clock does strike midnight, the party does end, and you do suffer the consequence. So if you're slopping your way through some stuff now, if you're taking shortcuts with discipline, if you got some bad habits that you think don't matter, because overall you're still doing pretty good, don't think you're the exception. That habit will compound and it will train wreck your progress. It's just a matter of time. So we want that compounding effect working for us, not working against us, working in our favor, building up escrow for positive results, not building up escrow for potential misery down the road if we stay on that wrong path long enough. I'll tell you, it's just a lot easier to develop these habits if you do those first 2 points. If you get your mindset right and you're more focused on what matters most, and you determine what those max acts are every day and that you're going to do them, I'm telling you, you're going to do them regardless of how you feel. You're going to do them because they're going to take you to where you want to go. Then developing that habit is just a whole lot easier. Point 1 helps point 2. Point 1 and point 2 will help fuel point 3. Okay. You got to have better habits. You want to see where your life is headed? Look at your habits because they're taking you somewhere. Those habits become your daily routine. And one of my mentors, John Maxwell, said the secret to success lies in your daily routine. He said, you could watch my daily routine a while. I could watch yours a while. We could predict one another's future. Because what we're doing in those daily routines compounds over time and eventually shows up, either on a good or a not so good result. Okay. So audit your routines, audit your rituals, audit these things. Are they taking you to where you want to go? Or are they making it harder to get there? Okay. A lot of times people say, well, I just didn't have the time to do X, Y, or Z. No, that's just not true. You had the time. You just chose to do something else with it. All right. You need to replace whatever that habit was with a more productive one. Okay. Now, let me give you a fourth one. So you got to have championship mindset, championship work ethic. You want a championship habits. You also need championship consistency. And I believe if you do the first 3, this one is going to be a slam dunk. Okay. I mean, face it, habits fuel consistency. What fuels habits? Knowing what your max acts are. So now I'm doing those things again and again and again. That's becoming a habit. And now it's a habit. I'm going to do it more often. That's consistency. In my book, Unstoppable, I've talked about 4 different types of performers: undertakers, caretakers, playmakers, and game changers. And playmakers do a good job, but they're inconsistent. They have the up month and the down month, the up month and the down month. The game changer, the biggest difference between the game changer and the playmaker is consistency. In fact, the playmaker and game changer, they do a lot of the same stuff. They do a lot of the same stuff. They don't do totally different things every day. The game changer just does them more often. You know why? They got better habits because they've decided what their max acts need to be, and they've got a why that is so strong they can't not do that stuff. You see how this all ties together? You get a why that's so strong, you're going to force yourself to focus on what those max acts are. You do those max acts often enough, you're developing the right daily routines and the habits, and that's going to make you more consistent. Consistency is going to be easy for you, especially if you get better at this stuff. As I said earlier, you're going to be more willing and likely to do this stuff again and again and again if you feel good about it, if you feel confident doing it, right? If you know you paid the price to do it well. Now, here's one thing that'll hold you back, though. Probably the number one thing that holds people back from being consistent, you can do all that other stuff, is their addiction to instant gratification. Okay, so they know what they should do. They know it'll bring them a result. They know they've developed the habit. They know they've seen the rewards it brings over time. But today, just not feeling it. Just not feeling it. Just not feeling. I just don't feel 100%. Didn't get a good night's sleep. I can't take any more rejection. I can't take another phone call. And what people start to do is they look for instant gratification. What's instant gratification? Something that makes me feel good now, but it's not helping me down the line. Because what's discipline? Giving up what you want now for what you want most. So discipline is the opposite of instant gratification. Instant gratification is doing what feels good now and sacrificing what you want most. Discipline is giving up what you want now. Maybe it's just to be a couch potato or web surf or play a video game. It's giving up what you want now for what you want most, you see. So instant gratification is a trap. And that's, it mugs us, really. It mugs us. It hijacks us when we get too focused on how we feel. I tell the athletes sometimes, I said, are you so crappy you can only perform on the days you feel well? I said, you got to learn how to have those good crappy days. You got to learn how to have those good crappy days. You just can't wait for a better day. You got to learn how to have those days when you got a lot going on, when you don't feel 100%, when you didn't get that good night's sleep, when you're hungover, whatever the case may be. You've been beat up by rejection. You feel like you got about 60% of your capacity, then you got to give 100% of that 60%, what I said earlier. You got to still perform. You can't just wish it was a better day. You can't wish you were somewhere else. You just can't wish this tough spell would pass. You got to work through it. So you got to get over your feelings. Doesn't matter how you feel. If it'll help you get better, you do it. And then guess what? You feel better because you did, you see. See, most people, they go through life, they feel their way into acting. They feel their way into acting. If I feel like it, I'll make the calls. If I feel like it, I'll ask for the referral. If I feel like it, I'll practice the script. If I feel like it, I'll tune into the podcast. If I feel like it, I'll go to the training. The problem with that is, folks, in the real world, there are a lot of days we don't feel like doing the right stuff. We're human. We don't feel like doing it. And if you let your feelings determine whether you're going to do it or not, you are going to be entirely inconsistent because a lot of days you're not going to feel it. So you can't go through life feeling your way into acting. You got to act your way into feeling. Okay, you got to act your way into feeling. So no, I don't feel like it, but it's the right thing to do. It'll help me get to where I want to go. So I'm going to do it anyway. And then guess what? I'm going to feel better because I did it. I'm going to act. And then I'll feel better because I did. It's just like those mornings you want to work out and the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up. You want to hit that snooze button. That's what broke people do, by the way. They hit the snooze button a lot. They got nothing worth getting up and fighting for. All right, so don't hit the snooze button. Have a life that you want to get up for. Have a life that gets you bounding out of bed. But it's like those days you know you're supposed to go to the gym. The alarm goes off. You don't feel like it. But if you get up anyway, on those days, and you go to that gym, how do you feel about 2 minutes into that workout? You feel better about yourself. That's how discipline works. Discipline is a morale builder. Discipline is not punishment. You always feel better about yourself when you're doing the hard stuff, when you're doing the things you didn't want to do, but you did it anyway, because that's growth and you feel good about yourself. So let's face it, you got to stop letting your feelings hijack your future. You got to subordinate your feelings to your future. Okay. Because I'm going to be real blunt with you. Within this context of doing the things that are going to help you get better, they're going to help you reach your why. Within that context, how you feel about it doesn't matter. Your feelings don't matter in that regard. They matter in some regards, but when it comes to doing the right thing, when it comes to doing the productive thing, when it comes to taking you to the life of your dreams, how you feel about doing that stuff, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. You do it anyway. Because you want stuff so bad you can't not do it. And then you feel a lot better after it's done, you see. And this is where I think you start to develop swagger. You know, we talk about swagger a lot in sports, you hear swagger a lot in business, but swagger, to me, swagger is an earned confidence. Swagger comes from knowing you've made it through 100% of your setbacks, 100% of your disappointments, 100% of your no's and rejections, and you've risen above it, and you're here to fight another day. Boy, you feel good about that. That earns some swagger. You got to earn your swagger. Swagger is earned confidence that you made it through, you're stronger, wiser, better, and now you're ready for what's next. Swagger is when you get so clear about your goals, so clear about that why, that you can say no to nonsense. You see, this stuff I'm talking about here, it's going to help you develop swagger. I'm so clear about what I want. It's easy to say, no, I can't do that. No, I can't go with you. No, I can't be with you because there's stuff I want so bad. This is what I got to be doing. That type of personal clarity gives you a swagger. That type of decisiveness gives you a swagger that poor confused person that's spread a mile wide and an inch deep just trying not to drown will never have. Swagger is when you can prioritize taking care of yourself. I got to take care of my mind, man. I got to take care of my body. I got to take care of my relationships. I got to prioritize self-care. Even when the rest of the world is screaming for my attention, I got to make some time for me. I'm going to do that mindset routine. I'm going to get to that gym. I got to keep my engine going so I can contribute to everybody that's counting on me. That's a swagger that comes with that. I'm just telling you, you start to develop the right mindset, work ethic, discipline, and consistency, and you're going to earn a confidence that gives you a swagger that your customers can feel. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to hold yourself to a higher standard. And think about the biggest champions you know in any sport. They got a swagger, and they earned that swagger. It was not given to them on a plaque. They earned it by doing the same type of stuff I'm talking to you about now. So I'm hoping out of these 4 or 5 points, there's 1 or 2 takeaways that will help you, that will maybe reinforce what you're already doing that works, or give you a nudge if you're off track, or totally put the brakes on some of this nonsense you might be engaging in so you can get back to the stuff that matters most. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 tweaks away from an entirely different level, and I hope you found 1 or 2 of those tweaks in our little tune-up for championship performance here. Thanks for having me on.